What is the most rewarding part of your job?
It's feeding people really amazing food.
Yeah.
I eat the meals and just feel so nourished. It feels like we are so early on this journey with Blue Zone's Kitchen, while we're already really seeing our vision come to life.
Hi, I'm Lexi, the editor-in-chief of the Nutrition Insider, a publication and resource for those who are looking to level up their health. We speak with the most innovative brands in the health and wellness industry to learn insider information on how you can improve your health. Today, we are joined by Abigail Coleman. Hi, Abigail. It's so nice to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and about Blue Zone's Kitchen?
So Blue Zone's Kitchen is a brand new company, but it's based on the long research of blue zones, which are the places in the world where people live the longest, healthiest lives. We've created the Blue Zone's Kitchen company inspired by those blue zones and all the research that's gone into understanding what drives longevity in those areas.
So could you tell us a bit more about what inspired the Blue Zone's Kitchen and kind of the story and what brought it to life?
The blue zones have been researched for over 20 years, and really to understand what drives longevity and how can we teach this and empower people in their own lives with these secrets of longevity. And one of those is the way people eat in blue zones. And so we created Blue Zone's Kitchen in order to make it easier to eat the blue zones way.
Can you share with us a bit about the process of how Blue Zone's Kitchen selects ingredients for the meals?
We really believe that high quality ingredients are the key to a absolutely fabulous meal. And so every single ingredient is handpicked. We are going to farms to see how they're processed. We're following them all along the chain as they get to us, because it's not just the beans, it's not just the kale. We're really focused on how large the kale grows before it gets cut.
Yeah.
We want a really tender kale leaf. So really everything is looked at very, very carefully, down to how fine the flax is in our meals. So every single ingredient is important, and we believe it contributes to a very high quality end result.
Yeah. Could you tell us a bit more about what makes an ingredient high quality and suitable for being included in a Blue Zone's Kitchen meal?
We have chosen only non-GMO ingredients, so we really start there. And then we choose organic as often as we can. We are really focused on the taste and the texture, because those are incredibly important. So we are bringing in, all sorts of different, if we're going to try garbanzo beans, we're going to bring in 16 different garbanzo beans and really find the one that has the best texture, that will really deliver, soak up the best sauce, and give us the best end result.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious about the process of how the ingredients make it from the farm to the actual, meal in the freezer of the consumer. So are the ingredients prepared on the farm and flash frozen there, or do they get distributed and processed in a different location? There
are two routes. There are some farms that do straight from farm to individually quick frozen, or IQF. And we partner with those farms, and that's wonderful. And you just are really locking in every piece of goodness. There are also small farms that don't have the equipment to freeze. So they're going to send to, for instance, our black beans. Our organic black beans are grown in family farms in Michigan, and then they are sent dry at a dry state. They're cooked and then flash frozen somewhere where they have all the equipment to freeze, within a matter of 1 to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So that specialty equipment will help add a step for farmers that are just focused on the field.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great, because I know a lot of consumers are becoming more and more informed about what makes a healthy and nutritious meal. And I feel like people are starting to realize, frozen food can actually sometimes be more nutritious than even food that you get from the produce section, just because it's flash frozen at the source itself. So.
You're so right. And I think what's been so fun for us actually is that the realization that we had that there's nothing inherently low quality about frozen.
Yeah.
It's just what's in the market.
Right.
And so to be able to find these incredible family farms that have been farming, black beans for generations, and they make a beautiful product. They know what they're doing. To be able to bring that to market, we have one of our meals has heirloom rice in it. Heirloom rice, organic beans, this incredibly tender kale, and a delicious sauce that uses smoked paprika. I mean, these are high quality, hand-picked ingredients, and most people wouldn't expect to find that in a frozen meal.
Yeah.
But there's really nothing inherent. There's no inherent reason why a frozen meal can't be of the highest quality. And there's no reason that you need to add chemicals, because the freezing process itself allows you to hold it at that peak freshness and that peak flavor.
Mm-hmm. Part of what we've learned about Blue Zones since learning about Blue Zones and watching Dan's documentary and everything was about sort of limiting the amount of animal proteins. Are you also doing that with Blue Zones meals? And, are there meals that are vegetarian, vegan only, or do you also have some that also have animal proteins in them?
One of the really interesting things that I love about the Blue Zone's approach to eating is that it is very realistic, because we are taking all of these studies of real people, how they live their whole lives, and you see them eating animal protein, but it's not on a random Tuesday. It's having, in Greece, it's a leg of lamb when someone gets married. It's a really focused celebration. It happens about maybe 5 times a month. So what we focus on is fully plant-based meals, because we know how easy it is to add call it 10% of animal proteins that are found in the Blue Zones diet. That can be added, and most people struggle more with the whole foods plant-based side of the equation. So that's the part that we'd like to make really easy and allow people to, add their 10% as they see fit.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Could you tell us more about how the Blue Zones meals align with the longevity principles of the Blue Zones philosophy?
When the studies looked into where people were getting all of their nutrition, even though the Blue Zones are scattered across the globe, there were these very strong consistencies to where the majority of nutrients were coming from. And they were coming from beans, whole grains, greens, tubers, and nuts. So that's at once somewhat restrictive to get lots of your calories from that, but also just abundant, because when you look at what falls into all those categories, you can just play with these wonderful, wonderful ingredients. We've been able to take that approach of creating meals based on those 5 categories and bring them forward so that we're contributing to the longevity benefits that you get from eating these. So we know from Dan's research that a serving of beans every day will add 4 good, healthy years to your life.
Wow.
So we want to be part of people's serving of beans and do it in such a way that you want to eat it every day. It's easy. It's delicious.
Yeah. So if you eat 2 servings of beans a day, does that add 8 years to your life?
I don't know if that's been in the study.
All right. Well, we'll have to find it. We'll have to do another study and find out. I'm willing to be a test subject. So could you tell us a bit about some of the most popular meals that are part of Blue Zones Kitchen?
We have launched with 4 meals, and it looks like, we're about a year in market. It looks like our best seller is Sesame Ginger Bowl. And we have some regional favorites that I find really interesting, being a data person as well. Down in Texas where I live, the Burrito Bowl, which has a little bit of a kick from Guajillo chili. That one is the top seller. So we do see regional favorites popping up. But we are using the data that we see and the really great in-market performance to continue to develop and push in where we're seeing a great runway from our customers.
Very cool. What kind of feedback have you gotten from some of your consumers or some of your customers about the meals themselves?
Our vision is that we're going to make Blue Zones eating easier And we are seeing that in the feedback from customers. They're telling us, oh man, I took this for lunch and I just felt so nourished. And then it was so easy to feel really good throughout the day, or this was a great dinner when I didn't feel like cooking. And those are the ones that really make us smile, because we're seeing that it's being incorporated into people's everyday lives. And they're really loving it.
Yeah. And do you find that the type of customers that you have, are they kind of spread out? Are they families? Are they young people? Is it kind of a mix, or?
Yeah, it is a mix. We are really excited we're at just over 1,000 stores today, and we are spread out over the nation. So we are seeing a mix of where people are regionally and what's in their household. And I know I serve it to my kids, so.
Cool, yeah. So it must work. Must be good. Yeah, especially if kids will eat it. That's like the hardest part, I would imagine, is getting kids to eat healthy things. So
yeah,
that's great.
And I think part of the fallacy of designing within the food industry, often people think, well, you can have healthy, but you can't have healthy and convenient and tasty. And we really feel like we've unlocked all three. So it is, of course, healthy because it is grounded in eating for longevity. But we've really focused on making these incredibly delicious, not only through the quality that we pursue, but we just know that the flavors and the spices and the just incredible cuisines that these are inspired by from the Blue Zones themselves bring so much to the table. And then, of course, the format, which is a frozen meal, is so convenient. So we've really unlocked all three, when most people in their heads think you can't have all three.
Right. Yeah. People forget that spices exist and you can add them to anything and make it taste good. So that's great to hear that you're doing that with these meals and making them taste good as well as be healthy. So love to hear that. How does Blue Zones Kitchen go about educating consumers about the Blue Zones philosophy?
So one of the major ways that we're having communication with consumers is on the package itself. We really intentionally wanted to look like we came out of the pages of the Blue Zones Kitchen cookbook. So visually, there's an alignment with the 20 years of research and the national bestsellers and the Netflix documentary, all visually queued up to look like it's from one single family, which it is. Then on the back of the panel, we always highlight the location that inspired the meal itself. So whether that's on Burrito Bowl, we talk about the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica. And the ingredients that are highlighted in the dish and what inspired us from Nicoya. And we are really connecting the dots that the places of the Blue Zones and the learnings of the Blue Zones are driving these findings. And they come from real people. And I think that humanity of, these aren't best practices that come from a textbook or, something very sort of like science-based and cold. It's large-scale research based on humans who've really lived these amazing lives. And so having that connection to place and that inspiration to the communities where they're from is really important to us. We also use the platform that Dan has built and the community that Dan has built with his speaking, with the Netflix series, with his books is so incredible. And so that he's created a dialogue, and he in his way is really a journalist at heart. He's really interested in the story and the people. And so you see him, I think this was shown really well in the Netflix series. You see him in the kitchens, asking the questions, laughing along with the families, really curious. But he has that curiosity when you meet him in person, and when he's interacting with his community, either in social media or in his talks. And he listens, and he listens to what would help people. And for many years, people were saying, I love the concept of Blue Zones. I've read the book, but you know what's so hard is really taking this in and making this happen in my kitchen.
Right.
And so really listening to that feedback and wanting to help is how we got one of the big pushes for starting Blue Zones Kitchen.
Yeah. So you have the nutrition part of it locked down. I'm curious if you have if Blue Zones has any initiatives for the other aspects of the Blue Zones philosophy. So the health part of it, the moving and the exercise and the life philosophies and community aspects of it as well. Are there any initiatives that you guys are doing around that?
Yeah, well, what's wonderful is we are part of the Blue Zones total philosophy. So we get to focus more specifically on the food, but we get to be part of the community that is building out the Blue Zones project cities and building out different communities to have, community faith groups and fitness. There's so much support of pickleball.
Yeah.
And
cool. Yeah.
really community-based athletic pursuits. So we get to focus on food and then be part of the Blue Zones community that focuses on the Power 9 at large.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit more about the Blue Zone, did you say projects or cities?
Yes.
Was it? Yeah. What is that?
The Blue Zones project cities are cities that engage with Blue Zones in order to bring the Power 9 principles that are inspired by Sardinia into their own U.S. city. So they want to take the learnings about creating more walkability. So you might add walking paths into the city to create spaces for gathering. So you might add faith-based or non-faith-based places to gather and support those and have those open for people. You might encourage the local restaurants to have a Blue Zones appropriate meal on every menu, no matter what the cuisine style is. So you're really going to have all of the concepts of the Power 9 brought into the city. And some of that is literal construction work when you're putting down a pathway. Yeah. Sometimes it's re-looking at the spaces that are in the city and saying, hey, you know what? People could gather here. We could offer this up as a place for people to have meetings and community groups. Yeah. But they work with the Blue Zones to really take those principles and bring them to life so that the citizens of that city or town improve their lives and they measure the before and after and make a positive impact in the citizens' lives.
That's very cool. Can you tell us which cities that's happening in right now?
Yes, I believe there's over 60 project cities in the U.S. right now.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
What strategies is Blue Zones Kitchen employing to kind of make them more accessible to wider audiences?
We are, number one, trying to reach as many people as possible through grocery stores that are in communities. So we're looking at adding new retailers to our distribution and finding really amazing partners in that pursuit. We are adding to our meals. We're adding 2 breakfast items. So beginning earlier in the day with 2 steel-cut oatmeal bowls. And we're adding more meals as well, so we can really provide the variety for people that are looking to have a daily habit. Yeah. And we are really leveraging the reach that Dan has built in his community to have a conversation with people and what they need. And people, what's so amazing about this group is they are not afraid to give feedback. Yeah,
that's helpful actually. You want wonderful to get that feedback, right?
It's wonderful. Yeah. It's not a shouting into a wind tunnel. It is really providing what we know is an amazing product inspired by a Blue Zone, and then hearing, hey, what about this? Or I want this, or this was amazing. And it's constant and it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's, you don't want to hear bad things about your products by any means, but you do want to hear when people have suggestions and people can tell you like, hey, this would make this better and everything. So that's great to get that kind of feedback from your consumers. I can see that with sort of maybe the stereotypical kind of people maybe who are interested in Blue Zones, they would definitely have some feedback. So that's great.
I do have, even when people do have something that's not great to share, there was a woman who wrote in and said, I love your meals. I received a bowl and it did not have any rice in it. What happened here? I love you guys. Please, make the next one better.
Yeah.
And of course, we want to make the next one better every single time. But even just the way that people almost already feel ownership, like these are my meals. I love them. Yeah. And just needed to tell you this happened. And we're like, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for writing in.
That's great.
That's the kind of community we have.
How do you see Blue Zones Kitchen contributing to larger movements towards healthy eating and healthy living in the future?
There have been a lot of movements to move people away from eating meat by replacing meat with substitutes. Right. And really what we feel like what we're doing is moving people towards something and using the abundance and the quality and the incredible taste to drive people there.
Yeah.
What Dan always says that I love is the number one ingredient in any longevity diet is taste.
Yeah.
Because you would never eat this way for 100 years if it didn't taste good.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what we need to do is distill that incredible taste that is happening when the Greek grandmother is making a giant pot of beans for her family. We need to distill that incredible taste and that care and that quality and bring that forward to people. Right. And so it's not really a substitute. It's really a way of eating that celebrates the beans, celebrates vegetables.
Yeah. I love that, sort of paradigm shift of like, we're not trying to steer you away from something. We're trying to steer you towards something that is better for you and tastes better and is, obviously good for you. And that will make it easier to adhere to in the long run as well. I definitely agree that a lot of the more health conscious conversations that we're having right now, or that we've had in the past rather, has been very focused on what can we take away. And I love that you're kind of turning the tables on that. And what can we add to people's diets, and what can we encourage people to include in their diet? Even if they add a lean protein to the meal and everything, what can we add to people's meals rather than, how do we get people to stop eating this or stop eating that? So that's really, really cool. I love that. And it's definitely a healthier mindset around healthy eating as well, I feel. And it's not a scarcity mindset, but like an abundance mindset. You've said abundance a couple times, I think, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, so it's both abundance, but also very human because it's not clinical. It's not lab. It's
the opposite.
It's the opposite. Yeah. It is so real and so human, and that's what feels so optimistic about it. Is that you look into people's lives and you see they are doing this every single day.
I have family in Italy, and so I definitely understand when you talk about when I watched the episode about the Sardinian family there and how they're not eating things that people here would consider to necessarily be healthy, but it's so much more than the food that they're eating, which is healthy because it includes healthy fats and healthy carbohydrates and healthy proteins and all of that, plus having the community around them and everything.
It was the aunt, right?
Yes.
She never had her own children, but she cared for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they were hers.
Yeah.
And they cared for her.
Yeah.
And that community around, when you think about eating and how central to most civilizations food is, right? It really is. It can be the center of the home, the center of larger gatherings.
Yeah.
And so while food doesn't stand alone, and Blue Zone's principles recognize that. Yes, you need to eat this certain way, but you also need to be having, that connection conversation.
Yep.
You need to be in community while you do it.
So as COO, what are some of your goals for the future of this company?
We have had such an amazing response so far, And so what we are building now is really such a long-term vision that is really exciting to be able to march towards, but takes a little bit of patience because we want to do things really well and then continue to expand. So it's been just incredible to have the success in the immediate term and then plan out many, many years out with what feels like the green light from this incredible community that we've already started to establish.
What advice would you give to other health-conscious brands who are looking to incorporate health and longevity principles into their own companies?
The biggest finding that we've had is the response in market to our product was based on the credibility that had been built over the 20 years of research, and then a product that delivered and tastes incredible. And so I would not sleep on the development side. I know there's been a lot of really fun brands that are filled with humor and just really, really fun. I'm loving what's happening in the brand space. It's so much fun. But the product has to deliver. So just don't sleep on the development side and get that feedback, get the tough feedback, but really listen to what people need and how they're using your product. And, we took over a year in development to really get it right. And it's now paying dividends. So I would say that is a really incredible piece that's very behind the scenes. But really worth it in an investment.
The R&D that goes into creating a good product must be like, I can't even imagine how much research and product testing must go into that. So is a year like a typical amount of time or a long amount of time? I'm just curious about what that looks like for most health product companies.
I think it depends on the category that you're working in. I mean, to be honest, we took a year to develop our recipes, and also people told us we were insane for moving so fast.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. So a year is short then, I guess.
It depends because we really wanted to source each of our ingredients.
Right. That takes time.
Yeah. We had to have a big picture and then a focus on every, like I said, I mean, it's down to what is the mill of the flax. Like everything has to be taken a look at. So
I was curious also, jumping back to the sourcing of ingredients and everything. Could you tell us some of the countries where you get some of these products from? Or ingredients, rather.
Absolutely, yeah. So our heirloom rice in our heirloom rice bowl is Carolina Gold rice.
Oh, cool.
And this is a rice that used to be the predominant rice grown in the United States before machine processing came along. And it's actually too gentle for some of the big machines that now produce our, standard Uncle Ben's rice. And so this variety of rice fell to the wayside, and now there are some farms in the Carolinas that are bringing it back from obscurity. And so our Carolina Gold rice is grown out in North Carolina.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so we've been out into the fields and seen the harvest. Our black beans are from Michigan.
Oh, awesome.
Our red peppers are from California, as well as our broccoli.
Oh, cool.
A lot of our peppers and some of the heat that we bring in our different dishes are from New Mexico. So we really don't necessarily pick produce that is from the Blue Zone, but is inspired by the cuisine and the way of celebrating. So in Costa Rica, they celebrate the black bean. They love the black bean. And so we also wanted to celebrate our black bean, but we have chosen the best black bean that we could find, and it's in Michigan.
Wow. So are the majority of your ingredients, they're from the U.S.
Yes.
then? Oh, that's so cool. Okay. That's great. I was curious about that and the sustainability aspect of it all. And I'm just always curious about the distribution of things and the carbon footprint of how far things have to travel and everything. So I was just curious, do you have one area or do you have multiple distribution centers and you try to keep things as close to your main hubs as possible? Or is it it's more spread out?
This is an excellent question. And I think really important, especially when you're talking about a frozen a frozen supply chain. What's helpful in keeping sustainability front of mind is that a frozen supply chain is very expensive. So the logistics and figuring out how we can collapse areas, collapse our supply chain into, coming on certain routes is a big part of what I do. The unsexy part of picking the right kale is like, but can we pick a kale that's next to where we get our blueberries? And then we can put them on one truck.
Yeah.
So,
I think that is the sexy part of it. So, but I'm biased. I'm a sustainability person. So, can you, for people who don't know, so people who are watching this, what makes the frozen distribution, what was the exact term that you used? The frozen distribution process or...
when we IQF.
Yeah.
Individually
IQF.
Quick frozen.
Yeah. So what makes that expensive, like distributing frozen ingredients or bringing that together into one product?
Yeah, it is very expensive, largely because everything needs to stay frozen.
Right.
And so you're getting frozen trucks to drive from the place where they're frozen to the place where they're going to get put into a meal. And then another frozen truck is going to take the final meal and drive it to a big warehouse.
Right.
And then another frozen truck is going to take from the big warehouse to a distributor. Yeah. So it is a lot of frozen trucks. And the cost of a full truckload versus a less than full truckload is just night and day. So anybody just starting out is going to pay such a high premium on a per piece basis for all of those little small bunches of kale on a truck. You're basically paying for the whole truck with that little bit of kale. Yeah. So it just ends up getting so prohibitively expensive to come in the door. And I think that's one of the reasons why the quality levels, we haven't seen the quality levels rise very quickly within frozen, because if you're not moving full truckloads of blueberries, it's just an arm and a leg to get it from, X to Y.
Yeah. So it comes down to the refrigeration of the truck and everything, which is much more expensive than a non-refrigerated, unrefrigerated truck is essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah. What is the most rewarding part of your job at Blue Zones?
It's feeding people really amazing food.
Yeah, I bet that's super rewarding. And you get to feed it to your kids too. So you're like, I did this. I did. Get to feed you this awesome food from these awesome places and everything.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
It feels really good. And I eat the meals and just feel so nourished. And I just really love the product and know it represents the Blue Zone style of eating so well. Right. And so it feels like we are so early on this journey with Blue Zone's Kitchen, while we're already really seeing our vision come to life.
Yeah, you're making an impact already. So that's very cool. Yeah, and it's cool that you get it from the Carolinas. I immediately thought of the chef, I forget his first name, but his last name is Husk. And he has a kitchen and obviously a restaurant in Charleston. I think he has another one maybe in Georgia. And he's bringing back a bunch of heirloom crops that he's bringing back, Southern food, Southern cuisine. That's kind of his big thing. I was like, oh, you two should collab. That would be amazing.
Because when you bring back these dishes, and I think it's very true in Southern cuisine, when you bring back these dishes and you see, oh, but that's so simple, like Hop and John, it's so simple. Yep. And it doesn't taste good when you use mass-produced, what is it, black-eyed peas and rice, because they're sort of mushy and watery and like it's kind of flavorless. Yeah. But when you go back to those heirloom grains and legumes, they're full of flavor. Yeah. And so you realize, oh wait, there's a real brilliance to picking the right ingredient and putting it in the recipe, and it brings out so much more. I mean, our heirloom rice bowl is phenomenal. And it's such a surprise to say, I'm going to go get a frozen meal, but I'm going to experience something that I think is delicious. Yeah. And we're so proud of that. Yeah. I just want to say thank you again so much for sitting with us and answering all of these questions. It's been really enlightening, and getting to learn more about yourself and about Blue Zones and the impact that you've had is really, really cool. So yeah, again, thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, of course.